Hi guys, it's Jeff here, the Photographer's Mentor. Hope you've had a fantastic week. Now that we're in March, spring is just around the corner. So I'm joined again by Michelle today, and today's conversation is going to be about getting your mindset right to give your photography business a real boost, and how the power of your mindset can help you improve your sales, increase your bookings, and get more money flowing into your business. Because sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, and by not having the confidence in our ability to sell and belief in ourselves, we actually project that over onto potential clients, and sometimes we don't get the results we really want. So I'm going to bring in Michelle. As always, let us know where you're watching from. Say hello. If you do have any questions as we go through, as long as you're not trying to sell us image editing services, then please, by all means, pop the comments in the questions in the section. Hi,
Please,
Michelle.
I don't need any. I don't
Yes,
need
we
any.
don't need our images edited. No.
After last week, the amount of private messages I had from them trying to do the same thing to me, I was like, I really don't need any.
So today we're talking about giving your photography business a boost and increasing your sales and your bookings. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the marketing side of things and give people a few tips on the marketing side of things. Hello, Donald from Glasgow. Donald Stewart, that's a proper Scottish name, isn't it? Donald Stewart. Hi, Donald, hope you're well. And hi, John. Hope you're doing well, John.
I love John's tagline there. That's amazing.
Portraits that command attention. Have you seen John's website? John's website is absolutely fantastic. And hello from Nigeria. Hope you're keeping well. So what we're going to be learning about today, Michelle, from your perspective, from a mindset perspective, that's going to help us increase our sales and get more bookings and get us in the right position for dealing with clients.
From my side, we're going to kind of be chatting about self-concept and self-belief and how those things can stop you from getting bookings, especially a self-concept side of things. So we're going to be talking it from that point of view and how that can lower your sales rather than boost your sales. So yeah.
And I think, something that a question that comes up a lot of time from photographers, and there's two schools of thought around this with regards to putting your prices out there on your website. And I'm a big believer. I'm one of the have your prices on the website camp. I'm in that side, because I believe that if you don't have your prices on your website, well, that can have a negative impact. First of all, that if you don't have a from price, or at least what I call a qualifier price, so people can get a rough idea of what it's going to cost to work with you. One of the big things with customers, with visitors to our website, is that's a big question. They want to know, even if it's just a ballpark figure. And it's not price that is usually the problem that is the sticking point between you and your client. It is actually brand. Because if everybody in the world bought on price alone, we'd never buy any premium brands. We wouldn't buy fancy designer clothes. We wouldn't buy Mercedes and Jaguars. We wouldn't stay in Hilton hotels. We would just go for the cheapest. Everybody would go for the cheapest offering. And because that's not the case, people buy on perceived value. And if the value looks high, if the brand looks high, and if the message and the communication is right, then price isn't a problem. Now, what I know, and you probably agree with me here, is I have a lot of photographers who say, I've had my confidence knocked, Jeff, because I've had 5 or 6 people this week phone me up or send an email to my website asking me about wedding prices or portrait price. And I've jumped on the phone, I've been excited. And then when I've sent that message over, they've come back and says, you're too expensive. Now, if you have a price qualifier on your website and your brand looks premium, you're going to weed those people out. And I always say, it would be better to have 10 inquiries from qualified people than 50 inquiries from unqualified people who aren't going to book you anyway, because those ones who say, oh, you're too expensive, we're never going to work with you. It's got nothing to do with your price. It's got to do with the fact that they don't value you enough. They don't put enough value in photography to spend that money on your services. They might go and buy the biggest TV they can possibly fit on their wall because they love TV, or they might go and spend £500 on a t-shirt that's a really nice designer brand, but they don't have a lot of value in photography. Everybody has different ideas of where their money values lie and perceived values lie.
It also depends on your brand, doesn't it, as well? So
Very
don't
much
forget that. So they could value photography, but the way you display your brand on your website, or the way you display yourself, in how confident you are within yourself, then obviously that can have that knock-on effect. So just be aware that it's not always that they don't value photography, and that's not to put a negative on you. That's for you to go, let me have a look at my website and see if it really shows who I am, and if it really shows that I'm a high-end brand, for example. I know with when I used to do wedding photography, I don't touch it anymore. I would always do a free engagement session. Now, I actually did the free engagement session before I took the booking, and I would explain it to them that I want you to see what you look like in my pictures and to see how you feel with me behind the camera before you book me. Because if you don't feel comfortable with me behind the camera when we do that, I'm not the photographer for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that built a very strong connection there was never a price issue after that. I think I had 99% of them book, and the ones that they didn't book because I wasn't the right one for them, and that was okay. One person I always remember, she said, "Oh, I thought I wanted creative, and actually I just want standard normal portraits." And I didn't realize, like, a standard wedding, she wanted just group shots, and she didn't want the creative. She didn't actually like the creative images with her in them, which was absolutely fine. It just meant I wasn't the right photographer for her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just being aware as well. If you do have that price issue, it won't be anything to do with your photography. Either it's the person isn't valuing you, or you're not having that belief in yourself or confidence in yourself to show yourself to your potential clients, because people buy from people they trust, and quite often there is never a money issue with people they trust.
Mm-hmm.
They will just book you.
Yeah And it comes down to it, that perceived value, as you say, and that trust as well. If you have a premium brand, if your brand looks premium, there's also a lot more trust involved in that, because people believe we're conditioned with, all the premium brands in the world work on providing great quality and first class service. So we know we've got to pay a little bit more for that. But because of that premium service, there's that element of trust as well. Now, if something doesn't look premium, if it looks substandard, there's always, it might be a knockoff, it might be a cowboy builder, it might be there's that sort of feeling that they're not very professional, where professionalism and that expertise go hand in hand with that perceived value and that premium look. And that's something that photographers tend to forget. We're one of these industries where when we first start out, we go and look at all the other photographers in the area, and then we copy what they've done. We look at their websites, we spend £5-10 on branding on Fiverr, where other people, other industries spend hundreds, if not thousands of pounds on their brand message, because they know that their brand message and the way they look and perceive themselves to others will dictate how much money they're going to get and the level of trust. And this sounds, it doesn't, even like the way somebody's dressed. If you saw somebody walking down the street with a raggy jeans on and a hoodie and looking scruffy, and another guy going down the street in a suit and sharply dressed, who are you going to put more trust in, and who are you going to put more respect in? Because that is the way we've been conditioned. We look at everything on the outside, the external packaging, and all these brands, all the top premium brands, spend a lot more on their image than they probably actually do on their products that they sell. And that is something that photographers really do struggle with. I'd be interested to know how many of you actually do have prices on your website. Do you display prices on your website, or do you display a from price? And if not, tell us in the comments why you won't do it. And also, have you looked at your brand? Have you looked at your brand from a client's perspective, because as me and Michelle know, you know, photographers, we tend to look at our websites and we tend to do our brand as if we're selling to other photographers, not selling to our customers. So you need to look at your brand and your website and your messaging from a client's perspective. So if you're a wedding photographer, ask a bride or ask people who are getting married, does it look feminine? Does it appeal to your ideal client type? Does it feel emotional? If you're a headshot photographer, does it look business-like? Does it look solution-based? Does it look professional and premium, and that this business delivers results and can make you look empowering and create the perfect first impression? Donald says he's got from prices on his website, and Clive, he has prices on his website. That's fantastic. So, I mean, that, you know, this is one of the key things that clients are looking for. And funny enough, I've just had a message from a company on LinkedIn talking about selling courses, and they messaged me backwards and forwards. They're trying to get me onto a call, a no obligation consultation call. And this sometimes is very, very much like a US type thing, you know, get people onto these marketing calls. And I says, yeah, it sounds interesting. Send me your brochure. They sent me the brochure. And I says, can you give me a rough ballpark figure of what it's going to cost to work with you? And it's a 3-month program and it involves this. And they said, just jump on the call. We'll go through, because it's very bespoke and because everything's different. I said, well, if it's bespoke, how do you give me the list of what's included in the program? Yeah, you can't give me a price. So from a Brian perspective, I'm not interested. Yeah, I wouldn't go and buy a new car and take it for a test drive if I hadn't got a clue. I could walk. you could be, somebody could turn around and tell, oh yeah, that's actually an Aston Martin. It's 200,000. Oh right, I didn't know. I've only got $5,000 budget. You know. So let's.
Although they say when you walk around a boat show, don't they? If you have to ask the price of the boat, you can't afford it.
Yeah. And you know, most of our clients are not multimillionaires who want to, you know, who have that huge budget. But it doesn't mean that you should fear price. In fact, price can be a really good thing, because sometimes price can actually, you know, one of the key things I learned right at the very beginning of my photography career back in 2004 when I left the military, where I'd been a photographer and came to be my first business was wedding photography, is we flipped our price list upside down. So instead of having your cheapest and then your mid and your most expensive, we turned it upside down. So we started with the most expensive, but then we added another package to that, which was our grand contemporary package, which we actually, in 15 years, we sold one. And the idea was that we never actually sold that package. What that package did was added that higher perceived value and that real premium feel, because people will think, oh my God, these guys can charge this much for a wedding. They must be good. Oh, but hang on a minute. You can get one of them. You can get one of them. And if you think about, a lot of premium car brands do that. They have really, you know, like BMW have they're really sporty. I forget what that model is. You know, they probably sell about 2 or 3 of them. And the same with Mercedes, with some of their AMG brands. They're very limited edition. But what it does is it raises that perceived value and that air of sort of quality and prestige. You know, so if sometimes your price on your website or on your, you know, your actual pricing can be your barrier to not getting clients, because it's not high enough. Especially if you had a really nice looking premium brand, but you were frightened to have that higher price. And what would you rather do? 20 shoots a year for £500 or $500, or 10 shoots a year for 5,000?
I've always had my list that way around. When I've done my prices, highest at the top, lowest at the bottom. Always, all through my photography career, pretty much. It's always been the better way around to have it. The only thing I do say is be very careful. From my perspective, I don't know how Jeff feels about this, but having read this, Alex, you say you're about to upload your wall art and prices and products. Be careful, because clients don't often understand what they are. So I find, although it's good to have a from price, and you know, especially, but when you're a portrait photographer, having every single thing that you sell can be very confusing to the client.
Yeah.
So you're much
I totally agree there.
list, having that, because we used to in the studio, we would, at the end of their portrait, we would walk them around the products in the studio and say, this is what this product is, this is what this product is, so that they had a real true understanding. Whereas we would have had a from and to, like when we had bookings, watch how ingrained this is in me. So you've got your £75 voucher. You can use that money towards something larger or something smaller, depending on what you prefer. Most of our clients, they do spend in the region anywhere between £800 and £1,000. But like I say, it's entirely up to you how much you spend. It's something along those lines. It wasn't completely how I used to do it. It was 8-9 years ago. But we would have that price range on the phone as well. We would say it as we were booking them in to make sure they understood that that was the average that our clients spent. But I did find that if we were to put a whole price list on, they would just be like, wow, I just don't, this is too much for me.
And a from price can be, because Ravi was asking about from prices, that, you know, from price can be a from price for your services or from price for your products. Like Alex was saying, he's going to upload like a full price list. Well, I would keep away from that, Alex, and do from prices. So what you do is, say for instance, you're a portrait photographer and you do wall art, you do albums, you do display boxes, you know, where you've got the matted prints in. What you do is have a really, really good description. And what I would do is when you're talking about stuff, don't copy and paste the manufacturer's description, because quite often the manufacturer's description is written for photographers, not for our end user. So it might speak in all photography words, you know, like fine luster, blah, blah, blah type paper. Client doesn't know what that is. So speak to them in words as if they were like buying a nice dress or a bit of furniture, you know. So you say, you know, lovingly handcrafted Italian real leather wedding album. So talk about the actual, so the more descriptive words you can use, the more people can actually envisage it and get excited about it. And then when you've done that, have a from price. So if you're talking about your albums, have some really descriptive points. Never sell a wedding album, always sell a luxury handmade real leather wedding album, or a bespoke handmade hardwood framed wall art, you know, and then have a from price. So yeah, like you wall art from £500, albums from £800. Now in Ravi's case, I know that Ravi does commercial photography, because I was speaking to Ravi the other day. He could be saying, you know, headshot shoots or headshot sessions from $200, event photography from $800, whatever your baseline price is. And then when you get into pricing, the key to having really successful pricing is to have what I call value-based pricing. So the more the customer spends, the better deal they feel they get, because we don't mind spending more if we think we get something better. And you think a lot of industries do this. The hospitality industry does. They have a standard room, then they have a deluxe room, then they have a super deluxe room, then they have the premium deluxe room. And every time you get something more, and the room gets bigger, you know, you get a free mini bar in the top one, and you get, you know, additional items. So as you're spending more money, you're like, oh yeah, but because I'm buying this, I'm getting this as well. I'm getting that. So reward your clients for spending more money. If it's images, make the cost per image cheaper, the more they spend, and then start adding additional value. Like if it's commercial photography, you could add video reels, you know, short interactive video reels, or banners for social media, panoramic style images for social media banners.
Yeah, the only thing I think is different from a pricing is if you're doing very customized commercial stuff. I think that can often be hard to put a from price on.
I would say
you'd still would do that.
I would still have a from price or a ballpark figure to what you could do. Say, for instance, you know, you said our clients tend to spend. So if you are, you know, like a commercial photographer and it can be anything between 20,000 and 1,000. You could say from 1,000, you know, prices start tailored to your individual needs, but prices typically start from, or you could have an average price, because that, again, that will weed out the people who have the 200. budget that you don't want. And also that premium branding should hopefully put them off as well. And obviously, it is going to be the first thing that a client asks as soon as they get on the phone. How much is it going to cost? How soon can I have my pictures? When can you fit me in? That, you've got to think from a client's journey perspective and see
depending on the level, because if you're about to work with Aston Martin, I'm not sure that would be the first question.
No.
But majority of clients, 100%, that is the clients you're typically working on with a daily basis. We'd all love to be working with Aston Martin people, right? We'll be asking that question. But that's what I was kind of thinking then. If you're working with really, really big brands and agencies, it might be a different ball game. That's the commercial I was thinking of, not an everyday commercial where your local business is getting in touch. I was thinking of, I've got a few photographer friends who work for big agencies and big brands, and that always seems to be a little bit but that's extreme. So I hope some of you are working for that kind of level.
And I think another thing to have on, and something I always had in my mind, is I'm not leaving the house for price. So the minimum you will do some work for, so if you're a commercial photographer or you do event photography, whether that's a 2-hour shoot or a full day shoot, you have a price that you're not going to leave the house for. I mean, if you're in London and you could be doing a 1-hour shoot in London and think, oh, it's only an hour, but you've actually got to get there and you've got to travel across town and somebody wants you there at 10. So you've got to set out for during rush hour. It could take you an hour and a half to get there. Then you do the hour shoot. Then you chat to the guy afterwards. Then you have to get all the way back across town. So this 1 hour effectively costs you 4 hours out your day. And if that 1 hour is in the middle of the day at 11 o'clock, then you can't fit anything in beforehand and you can't fit anything in afterhand because you're not going to have really any time because it's wrong. So I used to have I'm not getting out of bed for this, anything less than this amount. And that becomes your baseline amount. And I get that with speaking. When somebody asks me to speak at an event, I have a speaking event and I also have a call price. If somebody wants to jump on a call, I have a call price, and that is the minimum that I will do that for, because otherwise my time could be more productive doing something else.
Also, I can do this job, but I really don't want to do it price.
Yeah, that's
I have one of them.
Yeah. And then when you get them and they go, okay, yeah, fine, we'll go with that. And then you're like, oh my God,
Yeah, that's the price of what I would, I'd consider doing it if they're going to pay me that much. And too many times they've actually gone, yeah, okay. And I'm like, oh, okay.
And I know from experience, I know, a couple of people who have commented on this thread that we've worked together, some of my clients, and put in prices and just says, right, we'll send it off. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, they've booked it, So, believe in yourself, have that. And that's one thing that you're really good at talking about, is that self-belief, isn't it? And value in yourself.
And Abby, in answer to your question about should you have that you're flexible, honestly, don't. I wouldn't put a disclaimer on your site saying that, because if you've literally put the lowest you're prepared to get out of bed for or leave the house for, then you don't ever want to go any lower than that.
Yeah.
So honestly, don't, because otherwise you're opening yourself up for people coming in and say your lowest. I mean, say it's not even high, but your lowest is 500 quid, and you put, but I am flexible on pricing with budget, and then they ring you up and say, well, can you do it for 50? You're just going to waste your time with those phone calls. It's a little bit different. It does depend on how you're running your business. Some studios that I know, there is a number, they play numbers. They just get as many people in as possible and run a numbers game, and that's a completely different scenario. But if you want to do what Jeff would do, or what I would do, and I do with my automotive photography, which I'm just changing my whole website at the moment to make sure the new and updated prices are all on there, is that I only want a certain number a year. I don't want to play the numbers game. I'm not interested. I've done the numbers game. I've been there. And that's kind of the place that doesn't usually have their prices on the site, is the ones where they're getting them in through marketing of free sessions and free this and free that. And there's nothing wrong in that way of doing it, if that's what is you and what you enjoy. I didn't.
Mhm.
Hence why I don't do that anymore. But that's on you and how you want to run your business. But if you want to be high end and you want to do, you look at what you can physically fit in and you want to spend the time on your editing. My motorcycle or automotive shoots, just for a normal everyday person rather than commercial, it's 3-4 hour shoot, 2 days of editing. I physically can't have someone contact me that wants it for 200 quid. I just can't. It would not be worth me doing. It wouldn't be worth me touching, even though I love it, unless they bought some really exclusive bike where I could then sell the images on. It's just no point.
Yeah.
Um, so you have to decide how much you need to make a week, how much you need to make a month, how much you need to make a year, how many shoots you can physically fit in that time. If you work full time, you might only be able to do one shoot. If you've got a high street studio, you might be able to do 30 because you've got staff. All depends on how you're running things. So that's really, really an important thing to think about.
And if you think about
being high end,
if you think about big brands, one of my good friends is an area manager for finance manager for BMW, and he says, the whole BMW model, the way BMW worked, was to display in their advertising, in their marketing. You would say you could own a BMW 5 Series for, I don't know, £45,000 or something like that. So they would have the from price. So the prestige of the BMW and the brand was there. They had a from price to, it's actually a little bit less than I thought to get a BMW or a Mercedes or a Jaguar. To get you into the dealership, because that's what the advertising is for. It's to pre-qualify you to get you into the dealership. And if you walk around most car dealerships, the cars that you see on display are not the from price cars. They're always the top of the range cars with all the bells and whistles and all the exciting bits on, because it is that desire creating thing. So what they do is they sit you in the top of the range one. You go, I like these seats. They're nice. It's got a fancy sunroof. Well, it's the next model up that has that. So they put you in a position where you start falling in love with the lovely sunroof and the comfy seats and say, all right, well, I come in for the 45 grand one, but the 50 grand one has this, this, and this. And people stretch the budget. If we find something that we really like and that appeals to us and we can create that desire, we'll often stretch our budget. I just did that the other week. Didn't know I was telling you about a coffee machine. I bought myself a coffee machine, and that stretched my budget. I only wanted to buy a new replacement jug for my filter coffee, and I ended up buying a bean to cup Siemens coffee machine that makes 17 different types of coffee. But I talked myself into it because I love my coffee. And then I felt I'd got a great deal at the end of it. So it's about creating that desire and selling the customer the products that they want. Create the desire for them so they come away feeling great with their sale.
And Deanne, I think that's how I pronounce your name. If that's wrong, I'm really, really sorry. I tried my best there. Has just said he's concerned about showing his prices because competitors see and they can go in a lower price. But in business, you want to be competing not on price. You need to work on your brand. You need to make yourself the go-to photographer in that niche, in that area that you're working for. That's what you should be focusing on, because then price doesn't become an issue. Price becomes an issue at the low end of the market, where you don't have your branding in a way or your marketing in a way that shows you're high end and you are the go-to person. And that's when you fight for price.
I hear this and as you know, I work with photographers in 22 different countries, from India to America to Romania to Switzerland to London, UK, and people say, oh yeah, Jeff, it's different where I live because there isn't any money, or it's different where I live because of this, because of that. People make excuses for it. But if you chase the people who are there's always going to be somebody cheaper for you. There's always going to be somebody who has a cheaper offering. And if all you can sell on is price alone, then you're finished. You're never going to have a successful business model. Now, what you should be doing is not looking at the people who are cheaper than you. Pat those people on the back and thank them for being in business, because what they're doing is they're dealing with the crap end of the market. They're dealing with the people who are the the pain in the backside, people who are just buying on price, not buying on perceived value, not buying because they want the photographs and they want that solution. Look at the people at the top end of the game, right? All the, the photographers you aspire to be, or the ones who are really the go-to people within your industry. And I did that years ago when I started doing marketing and mentoring. And I said, I want to be the top photographer's mentor in the world. I want to have the biggest following on LinkedIn. I looked at different people, because these people are where you aspire to be. And if you watch them and you follow them, and the people who comment on their feeds and interact with their website, they have money to spend. If you're just constantly watching the people who are charging the bottom, you're never going to get out of that. And the other thing to remember within the photography industry is that it's like this, the photography industry. At this very bottom level, where the base price is where all the competition is. Everybody's fighting on price alone. They're all jack of all trades. As you move up, the number of photographers get less. The competition gets less. You actually have more chance of winning customers at your price than you do at the bottom end price. So leave the people at the very bottom to deal with the freebie hunters, and then you position yourself to brand to people who actually really value what you do. And that is a real key important thing when it comes to your pricing. Because remember, these people at the top of the game, one day they were, years ago, they were doing shoots for free. They were building their portfolio, and it's only because they had goals, they had ideas, and they built their brand, and they worked on that they got to where they were. I don't believe anybody picks up a camera and says, right, I'm going to charge 20 grand a day. Nobody does that. It's impossible to do that. You've got to work your way up, and these people did. You look forwards and don't look backwards.
So I just thought I'd have some fun. I just had a quick look. Right. And if you go into HM Samuel, which is a jeweler, you can buy a half decent looking watch here for 150 quid. And you can buy one. I mean, I don't know a lot about men's watches, but one that, I mean, it looks a bit nicer, but I don't know if it's that much nicer, for £1,000.
Yeah.
And you can go into that shop and you can buy either end of the budget. You can have the £99 watch, you can have the 960. I know that is not going to be the most expensive either, because I've seen some in those shops for about 42,000. So I know that's not going to be, but they're in the same shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yet people are going into that shop, and some are choosing the cheap watch, and some are choosing the brand that they've seen, they've had marketed at them, and that they love in the same shop. So your photographers are in the same area, and it's no different.
I've got on this hand, I've got a Huawei Fitbit type thing, which cost me £30. It is absolutely precise with the time. On this hand, I've got a Tag Formula One that cost me £3,500, and every week I've got to readjust the time. It's horrendous at keeping time, but people don't buy it for the time; they buy it for the perceived value in the brand. So I bought that. That was a treat. I bought that for myself about 4 or 5 years ago, and I'd always wanted this particular watch, and for me it was a reward. I didn't buy it to keep the time. This keeps the time. 30 quid. Fitbit keeps the time better than the expensive watch does, but the expensive watch was something that I wanted, and I wasn't buying it from the timekeeping. I was buying it for loads of other elements. It was a treat, it was a reward, it was an investment, it was something I decided to earn to. And nobody buys, people aren't buying luxury cars because they're any better. The thing with luxury cars, a lot of the parts are made by other car manufacturers or companies that supply parts for Jaguar and supply parts for Ford as well.
And think of the same. You've probably got, in fact, I know you've got a Primark in my town centre right next to M&S with their clothes. And obviously M&S aren't top end, and just down the road you've got literally you walk a little bit further down the way and you've got Fat Face, which is more expensive, and you've got Next.
Yeah.
So you've got all of these shops in exactly the same shopping centre. And if everybody just bought on price alone, you would never have all these shops in a shopping centre. But for some reason, as photographers, we can't look at photography and our industry in the same way.
Mm.
But yet it's no different to what walking down the high street and seeing Poundland and
Mm.
Sainsbury's in the same street.
Yeah. And if you ever go to Copenhagen, which I did in October with my daughter, and in the center of Copenhagen, into the square, is the Louis Vuitton shop, and you have to queue to get in. Now, I didn't go in, I didn't want to go in, but they never have a sale. That's part of their marketing. They don't have a sale, yet they have a queue of people excited and waiting to go in and spend, what, I don't know, £10,000 on a handbag or something like that. Absolutely crazy. One of their window displays was a whole window dedicated to a pair of gloves, and the gloves were something like £5,000. You know, but it just shows that the money is there. It's that perceived value and that desire, and you've got to be creating desire and excitement for what you actually sell, not the images, what those images bring to you. So I was helping a pet photographer the other week with some wording for her website, and I said, you know, you're not selling the images, you're selling having those beautiful photographs on your wall in your home. That it's an integral part of your home. It makes your house a home. It personalizes your home. It creates that wow factor. When people go in, they go, oh, wow, that looks amazing. There's little Fido, you know, and you've got your dog's crazy personality. And when you've had a really crap day at work and it's raining outside and your boss has peed you off, you can come back home and drink a mug of coffee and look at that picture of your dog, and it brings a smile to your face. It cheers you up. So
Can I share my
screen?
screen?
Yeah. Yes, you can. Yeah. Let's have a look.
Can you see that? No,
Look.
you can't. It's not the right one. Hang
Add
on.
to stream.
Do it. Present, share. Because I'm that one I want. Just because I'm nosy.
Yeah.
After you said that with the people queuing up, I'm really sorry, guys, but I can't see myself purchasing any of these. But they're queuing up for £775. Look how tiny that bag is. It's my perceived value of it is very different. But remember, there was a queue. My perceived value of polka dots is not.
No, I certainly wouldn't be. I could maybe see myself in those polka dot leggings. You know, do you think
These ones, I could see you in
down
that.
at the gym? Yeah.
Yeah, I could see you doing that. I think, yeah. But just to give you an idea, people queue up to buy these, even these small ones, that £795. But yeah, a couple of doors down, you know there'll be a Primark or the next road down. But they wouldn't be in business if people weren't buying it.
That's totally right. And I think, yeah, people need to remember that, you know, who would you rather cater for? Would you rather cater for the price hungry element at the very bottom of the level where all the other photographers are who first join, because you've got the new joiners and then the ones without confidence to raise it up. And it's not the level of photography or your style of photography that is potentially the stopping point from you getting the right clients. It's your brand and your brand message. It's how your website and your marketing and everything is perceived by everybody else, because your clients cannot tell the difference between photographer A and photographer B. I never had a bride, 750 weddings. I never had a bride come to me and say, Jeff, I'm not really keen on the shallow depth of field, and I don't think you've got the leading line right on that. They used to go, oh, the photos are really clear. I love them. You know, 4,000 boudoir. I never had anybody come in and complain about the lighting. You know, what they would complain about was whether they looked bigger than they were, or whether they wanted their wrinkles taken out or something like that. You know, people weren't judging me for, you know, they like the brand connected with them, and they loved the pictures. They weren't analyzing. It wasn't like a photography critique. It's a brand critique. You know, people are critiquing your brand and your actual visual appearance to them from your website. And remember that your customers are brand experts, because we're all brand experts. We've been brought up and marketed to since we were little kids.
And this is where your self-concept and self-belief really comes in, because you also have to believe in yourself to come across in a way that owns your brand, in a confident way. When you're saying your pricing, you need to say it confidently. You need to believe in yourself to be able to say it. You can't sort of meet someone and they go, well, how much is it? And you go, oh, well, It's 250, but I tell you what, I can probably do it for 200 just for you. I mean, if you come across that way, or in the way Jeff said about that company that's like, oh no, you need to come on a call before we can give you the price, you're going to instantly feel icky. And it's more because you're not confident in saying the price. That company that did that to Jeff must have a belief that people won't even do the call if they hear the price. That's basically what I heard when he said that particular company were trying to get him on a call and wouldn't tell him the price when he asked. To me, that says we're not confident in our pricing and we don't believe people will buy it. Whereas you need to have a belief in your pricing, in your work, and in what you're doing to be able to then say things confidently and to have a confident brand and to speak confidently as well. So you need to look into, if you think, these are the common beliefs that I see people have, is people never have enough money. No one will ever buy anything. All the other photographers are cheaper than me. I'm not good enough. I am never going to be good enough. I can never make money out of this. People are never going to choose me. There's so many different beliefs that you can have sat behind you, which will stop you from being confident in what you're selling and how you sell it. And the other side I really, really see, which all of you as photographers, it's really important that you do, is the confidence to be in front of your phone camera, to have pictures of you behind the scenes, to have mini videos of you chatting so that they can get to know you as a person. Because with photography, unless you are a studio with 10 different photographers and you don't photograph, you are your brand. And if you don't push through the comfort zone of feeling uncomfortable having behind the scenes photos taken, behind the scene videos, for being in front of the camera, for example, taking a picture to go up on your stories for Instagram, then the people aren't going to know you, to trust you, to buy from you, because people buy from brands they trust, know and love. And you are your brand. So that side of the self-belief and the self-concept, if your concept is I look awful in pictures, I never take a good picture, all of this kind of stuff, whatever it is, even if it's just a fear that you don't like being seen. Maybe when you were a child, and a lot of children are told this, and not in a mean way. There's an adult party going on. Don't be seen, sit in the corner. Don't talk, sit in the corner. Be quiet. You're in a restaurant as a kid. Be quiet. Don't say anything. Shh, we're in a restaurant. Shh, don't say anything. And that can often have effect on our personalities, in thinking that we shouldn't be seen and heard, because as we're developing as a child, our brain's developing and we don't even realize that's a belief as an adult. But it then becomes an ingrained sort of belief, and it comes out when you're doing things on video, on behind the scenes and things like that. And even that fear of, I'll get it wrong. I can tell you now, I have recorded about 20 reels before on a day because something's gone wrong every few minutes. And it's been stupid things, like I've had somebody's dog run behind me on a walk and go to the toilet behind me in the middle of a reel, and I can't put it up. And you can luckily re-record these things nowadays, but also don't be perfect. You'll notice, if you've ever followed my Instagram, I've been doing more and more reels recently, and I'm not trying to be perfect. Every time I go on a proper walk, I do a reel, because it's a time and space where I have to do a reel, to do a mini video, to chat about things. So enabling that to happen, I don't look perfect. I'm out on my walk. I'm not going on a night out or anything like that. I'm just being me. And I'm just talking about what I'm thinking about while I'm on the walk, which is usually some sort of mindset stuff. So I'll put it out there. So don't be afraid, and start stepping out of that comfort zone. Start challenging yourself to show you more often within your marketing and within your branding, because it is so, so important, because people connect with people first. And that's what you want. You want that connection to you, your brand, and everything, because then that will make that easier to buy. It will be easier to sell, because they won't even really feel, you won't really have to sell.
Yeah.
The difference between having the high street studio where I played the numbers game and going higher end with my automotive photography, and now having the confidence to be like, this is the price of the session, this is what it's going to be. And then the whole way through, I'm not even selling, I'm just asking things like, where are you going to be putting that artwork on your wall? Where are you thinking for this? And I ask them even before we take the time to photograph, because I want to make sure I'm photographing for landscape and portrait, more of what is going to fit in the space that they have. Yes, they're going to never, in my head, they're not buying one, they're buying several, but they're already thinking, just for me asking a very simple question of where are you thinking of putting a wall art? Send me a picture of the wall. They're already walking around their house looking for places they can put it up.
And you can do very similar with commercial, can't you? So if you're doing a commercial shoot, you can say, right, so what are these images going to be used for? Are you needing a series of images that are attention grabbing, sort of banner style images for the hero section of your website? Because if you are, I'll shoot a few more panoramic, more landscape, so that we get some there. Are you needing stuff for your content, for your social media? How often do you post? All right, so you're probably going to need about 20, 30 different images for that. So by asking these questions, you can start to sort of sell the benefits of the images and what the images are going to be used for. So the client will like go from coming along thinking they need 10 images to actually being educated that they need, well, at least 10 images for the website, but then they need different images for the social media. Then they need a few for their social media cover photos as well, which are more panoramic. And then maybe they might need a slideshow as well to pin to the top of the Facebook page that shows all the benefits of what they do. So it's about educating and speaking to the client and then giving them these little prompts to make the whole experience with you better. And I think the other thing is, if you don't come across like you're selling, if you come across like you're doing them a favor and you're looking out for them, like, oh, well, this bit of wall art would work great as a pair if you had this on this wall and this on this wall, neck behind the sofa. And then if you get them to, we can give you this nice little thing to complement that goes on the fireplace. And then you do them a deal that way. People come away feeling, people will spend more money if they come away feeling that they've been looked after, you were looking out for them, and they got something good out of it,
Yeah, and you have to be confident to do that, and that's the difference. Is being confident to suggest to a commercial client. Sorry, there's obviously some drama going on somewhere outside my house. Is being the confident in your knowledge by asking the questions about social media, about this, do you want it for this, if you thought about using it for this, because then it is your job to suggest that to them. You might not realize that. You might think, oh, well, the clients come to me and they just want this and this is it. But if you're there to help them get the most they can out of their session with you, and making sure that everything is covered by you asking the right questions, that becomes a real positive thing. But a lot of people I see people panic, and someone comes along and says, okay, I want a commercial shoot, I just want this. And then because they're so worried about price, they don't even think about asking these helpful questions of, have you thought about whether you want it for social media as well? Have you thought about this? So you can put the price together. They just panic and kind of go, oh, it's going to cost you this, but actually I can give you 100 off because it's a Tuesday. And so it's going to end up being this, because they're fixated on the fear of giving the price, that they lose the connection to helping. I hope that makes sense, because I'm really not sure 100% that did just then. I knew what I was saying in my head.
But I think I used to, for the wedding side, for example, I had 3 questions I would ask the couple when they came for a wedding consultation. And those 3, and depending on the results of those 3 questions would depend on what my sales pitch was. And I would listen to that very carefully. So I'd first of all say, the relationship building, tell us a little bit about yourself. So how did you guys meet, and how did he propose, or how did she propose? So they tell you a little bit about themselves. Then I say like, oh, so what made you pick that venue? What do you like about it? Again, you're finding a bit more. Oh, we love the staircase. We fell in love with the staircase and the fountain. It's absolutely amazing. And then I say, so, when your wedding's over and you're looking back at your photos, how do you envisage your wedding photos? What are going to be the most important things that appeal to you? We want loads of pictures of our son because he's the ring bearer, and my granddad, he had 2 heart attacks last year, and we want loads of photographs of him because he's the special. So then what I do is then I focus on talking about getting photographs next to the fountain because they love the fountain at that particular venue. I talk about their son. Oh, so little Toby, we'll get some pictures of him doing this, and we'll make sure that Toby, and we'll get loads with your granddad. So you giving them what they want to hear, and this will work with any type of business. Like for people who come on board my mentoring, I'll say, tell me a little bit about your journey in photography so far. Where do you want to get to? And what are your visions, and what you're really struggling with regards to your marketing. So from that, I get to find out a bit about their background, what their goals are, and what they're struggling with. So if they say to me, Jeff, I'm really struggling with my brand and LinkedIn, I don't try and sell them that we do website on the course or that we do pricing, because they haven't said they're struggling with that. So I answer their question, and I'm, it's not a sales pitch. I'm not trying to sell them something I don't deliver. If they said, oh, well, do you do, I'm really struggling with TikTok and Instagram, I say, oh, unfortunately, that's something I don't cover on my program. So, that is the key. I mean, do you actually do that? Do you have a set of flexible questions? I would say 2 to 3, probably 3 questions that you can gain some foundation of your potential clients, a little bit more about them, and find something personal. Find out what's really, really important to them. Or find out what their problem is and their fear is, and what's really important to them as an outcome. So, you could say to your bride, tell us a bit about yourselves. Is there anything that worries you about hiring a photographer? Oh, I hate getting my photograph taken. I don't like being in front of the camera, blah, blah, blah. And how do you envisage your end photos? Oh, we really want one of those leather sort of Italian style albums. So if that's what they say, then you don't sell them or focus your pitch on a different type of album, because they've already said they want the leather one. So it's about asking those questions, but more importantly, listening to the answers and then using what they're telling you to make your sales pitch.
And you definitely don't need to feel like that's salesy, because what you're actually doing is just giving great customer service.
Yeah.
Because you're actually taking the time to care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, nowadays, quite often that can be rare. People are just trying to sell more and more and more, and not caring about the other side of it. So yeah, it's really important. The comments have gone a bit quiet. Are you all still there with us? Do you have any comments about the stuff we've just talked about? With the sales side of it, viewing wise, again, the confidence and your self-concept in the viewing room is going to affect your sales from a viewing room perspective for any of you doing portraits. So we said about the bookings, but even in the viewing room, if you have a self-concept that you are no good at getting sales, for example, you are then going to struggle with getting sales. So look at the things that you say to yourself about yourself that you believe. And I can say straight away, none of it is true. It is just stuff you've grown up to believe. And if you wish to change it, you can do, because beliefs are not what they used to think. They used to say that beliefs were, that was it. You were who you were and you couldn't change. Whereas actually now they say you can change and you can become better. If you say, I'm really, really bad at sales, go and do some training. Mm-hmm. That's how you change it. And then you start saying to yourself, I'm actually good at sales. I've got some of my coaching clients to actually look back and write down the biggest sales they've ever done. And then when I talk to them about it, because I've noticed all they've ever spoken to when they chat to me is about their lowest ones. They haven't ever mentioned their highest ones to me. They're just like, oh, I've had 5 no sales in the last 2 years. They don't talk to me about the 100 they've had and the top sale of like £6 million. They never talk to me about that one. They only talk to me about the lower ones. And that's because your brain, whatever your self-concept is about yourself, your brain will look for evidence to support it. And the evidence is the 5 no sales, not the 100 sales of 2 grand, 3 grand.
Mm-hmm.
So it will never remember them. It will always remember the ones that you didn't get, because it's reinforcing and giving you evidence to support the belief you already had within your brain. Which is why we always remember the negative stuff people say, and we never remember the positive stuff. It's all to do with how our beliefs are ingrained in our brain. So it's those kind of things that you do need to work on to improve. And there's several things I would do. I would go and look at your highest sales and write the top 3, top 4 down, so you can see that actually you can sell. The other side of it is, if your issue is that you don't feel you're a very good photographer, so you come to struggle to sell your work because you don't believe in yourself as a photographer, write down everything you've ever been given that you can remember that a client has said how amazing you are. Go and look back through your Facebook messages or your Instagram messages or your emails. Go and look at any reviews you've got, and get yourself a notebook, a little notebook. It doesn't have to be big, a little tiny one, and write down every positive that you've had from a client.
Mm-hmm.
And read it every day. Just randomly open it up at different pages every day and read a couple, to remind yourself that every time you say you're not good enough, you've had a client that says you are. And you need to reinforce, you need to basically show your brain evidence that what you believe isn't true. So by having that little book and showing your brain those positive comments, and that people do love your work, that reinforces into your brain a different belief. Because the more you do it, and if you do it every single day, soon the belief will change in your brain because you're training it to change. So that should be a little bit helpful with the to give you something to actually take away and do with the mindset side of it. Because obviously we've given you stuff to do on your website, we've given you branding stuff today.
Yeah, no,
you know,
like you said, that's another thing to look at, isn't it? To look at your brand, because your brand will ultimately help you charge more. Look at, your brand, your confidence. Be bold, be confident, get your brand up there. And a lot of photographers say things like, "Oh yeah, well, I need some more photography training." If your photography is, if you've had happy clients before, your photography is probably at the good enough level anyway. And the other thing is, if your brand's right, you got to lift your brand up, lift your confidence up. You don't need a new camera. You don't need a new lens. You've probably got everything you need.
I want one.
You just, right, so do I. But, you don't need potentially other tools to make you more money. You just need to have the brand right and have the message right. And I'm just reading what Ravi says.
Mine isn't a need, mine's a want.
Yeah.
It said about discounts to attract customers who think the prices are too high, and does giving discounts dilute the brand value? In honest, I wouldn't do discounts, especially if you've got a from price on your website. The only thing I usually would do is add value.
Definitely.
Which would be giving something.
So I used to get, you probably do this, used to get this in the studio all the time when we were doing boudoirs, doing a boudoir shoot, and the husband's come along with the wife, or the boyfriend's come along with his girlfriend, and he's standing at the back there while the shoot's going ahead. And then it comes to the sales part, and she's looking through the pictures, and then they're just about to sort everything out. And then he wants to show, I'm the man, I'm the dude, and he'll come in and go, "Tell you what, mate, how about you knock us off £200 for cash?" And I used to turn around and say something, because I'm just, what you're effectively doing, if you give, like Ravi, if you give that, $200 or 200 rupees or whatever, you give like a discount for cash, what you're doing is you straight away removing some of your profit margin. So what I used to do is I used to have this beautiful canvas on the wall, which I think was about a 20 by 24 canvas, and which I used to get from a local framers, and he did us a really good deal on it. And it had a price tag on it, and it was like £499. But I actually got that canvas for £35, £40. Right, so it was priced up for 10 times what it cost me. So I used to say to the guy, "I tell you what, mate, I'll do better than that instead of giving you £200 discount, I'll give you that £500 canvas. And he was like, oh, wow. He went away feeling great because he'd achieved something. He'd got a deal. That deal had cost me £35, £40, and I hadn't discounted 200. So exactly as Michelle says, give them additional value. Don't knock money off, because if you can give stuff, if it's a commercial shoot and say, well, I'll put another 3 or 4 images in there and the cost per image is £100 an image, or if you're doing headshots and you charge an extra £60 for the additional images or £70, give them a couple more images if they want to, if that's going to seal the deal. But don't knock money off, because by knocking money off, you're reducing your profits and you're going to have to work harder at the next shoot to make that money up.
I've even upgraded sizes before where they can't decide between the two. They were only going to get one. And I say, well, if you get them both, I'll take them up just one extra size for you, which gives you so much value. And by taking it up, it's not taking the cost again. The cost isn't a lot to go the next size up.
Yeah.
But they feel, because they only wanted one, they're now getting much more value with the two. And they're buying 2 instead of the one they were going to as well. So,
and you've always got to remember that thing as well. That it's that old saying, isn't it, that turnover is vanity, but profit is sanity. You can make 100,000 a year, but if it's cost you 95,000 to make that, you've only made £5,000 profit. So you need to protect your profits. You need to have your pricing right. And if you don't know exactly how much everything is costing you in your business and what your break-even figure is, then you're going to be really struggling to make a good profit. So you need to know your break-even figure, how much it costs you every month to run your studio, run your car, pay for your subscriptions to your professional associations and your magazines, everything that has affected your business and what it costs. That is your break-even. Then how many products do you need to sell and how much profit do you need to cover that break-even? And then how much more profit do you need to fuel the lifestyle that you want? So if you want to take 5,000 or 3,000 or 10,000 pound per month wages, how many of X packages do you need to sell to cover your break even, then pay the profit to fuel the lifestyle that you need? And that is sort of like financial basics, isn't it? It's working out your break even and then basing your product, because we all have different ideas of how much money we want, and somebody living in London might want more money than somebody living where I live in the northeast, because the cost of living is cheaper.
And or somebody might want break evens as well.
yeah. And if you're working from home, like we are, as opposed to working from a studio in a high street, then your break even figure is a lot higher. So yeah, you really need to understand the basics, and it's not that complicated when you get into it, when you understand. And obviously the key with being self-employed is claim for as much as you possibly can. There is tax allowable, obviously, including coffee machines. By the way, that coffee machine is going through the business because it is a tax expense. So when you come up, Michelle, you can have coffee.
I don't drink coffee, but thanks.
Anyway.
Ravi as well. I feel like is your clients really going to discuss how much they paid for a specific product from you? That's my question to what you've just put. Is it fair to people who paid full price and didn't complain? Like they're not going to be asking for a start. And I think, are you finding, I'm trying to work out if you're finding excuses to give a discount or why it wouldn't be a good idea to give a discount. I'm kind of a bit confused on that way. But sales is sales. You can go into BMW tomorrow and there'll be a sale on tomorrow. You can go midnight the next day and there's no more sale because the sale's ended. They're not going to suddenly go, well, because it was yesterday and so came in and got 20% off or a free indicator stick, which isn't needed for the BMWs. No offense, BMW drivers. They're not going to say, oh, well, even though the sale ended yesterday, we're going to give you this. That's not how sales works.
Yeah.
You can't suddenly, there's loads of things. You think about how many places have sales. I'm asking because I tell my clients, well, that's fair enough. If you don't want them to book you, that's also fair enough. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I was trying to work it out, but yeah, if you're not willing to do the job, like you've got that baseline, you're not willing to take that baseline from anywhere else. Yes, they can walk. I've got a baseline.
Yeah, and that's brilliant, Ravi, because I mean, I've seen you work. Your work's absolutely phenomenal. It's brilliant, you know, and you have to have that respect, you know, where you say, you know, I've had people say to me in the past, you know, would you do your mentoring for X amount? And I quite happily say no. I don't, you know, if you want my program, I can maybe split the payment over 2 payments or something like that, but I'm not going to reduce it because I value what I do. And I, you know, I put a lot of work into working with my clients. So I have, you know, I have value in myself. So that potential client might go, but they will probably never a client anyway. And then, you know, you might do that. And then the next day you get a phone call and somebody else books instead. And Steve Dan's claim for everything. Yes, Steve, that's it.
The one thing I will say that can be quite good, if any of you do think about it, is an extra value, which actually isn't part of the sales process, but you can give extra value by giving them something that, for example, if you're a portrait photographer, we used to, when they had a newborn shoot with us, we used to give, if people spent over a certain amount of money, they'd get a gift from us, like a little trifold, and it would have our logo on the front and then a couple of pictures of the baby in, but it was wallet size. So they would literally go around all their friends showing that, and that's sort of a marketing value, rather than a discount because they're in the sales room. But I just thought of that as a different way of something you would give from what Ravi was saying. So yes, you don't want to give discounts, you don't want to give anything, but don't forget there are very clever gifts you can give your client which don't lessen the value, if that makes sense. I'm hoping that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. I call them sort of promotional items, you know, sort of like small promotional items. One things we did, we used to do in the studio was key rings. So we used to give free key rings at the end anyway. When they came for the package, they would get some key rings and they would get some big fridge magnets, because the fridge magnets would go on the fridge. People in the house, oh, where'd you get them pictures done when they're in the kitchen having a drink? The key rings would be there on their oh, where'd you get those key? Them the company, and we them for, so they'd give them to the grandparents as well, you know. So Michelle, you've got your 5-day challenge this month now, isn't it?
It's coming really soon. Starts on the 20th. I'm really excited for it, but I would love to know if anybody listening is coming to the Society's convention, because that is sooner. That is like it's so soon. It's what, 14 days now we'll be there. So yeah, I'd love to know who's coming to the convention as well. So me and Jeff are both speaking at the Society's convention. I think we're both speaking Wednesday and Thursday, and you've got a third one. So what day's your third one on?
Friday, and then I'm probably going to be there Saturday because the trains are on strike. So
yeah, I've decided not to do Saturday, so I'm going to be there till Friday and then come home Friday. So yeah, it's different, but yeah, there's my website. It's really, really easy to come and do the 5 days. If you scroll back up, you just click on the down arrow for the work for me, and it's right there at the top.
Hey,
5 days for Mindset Workshop, and I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. It starts on the 20th. So yeah, it's gonna be really, really good. It does give you part access as well to the mindset community that I have, the free part of the community, which means you can chat with everybody, all other photographers who are working on their mindset as well. And there's lots of different things and interactions in there, including things like the replay of this that I know you can find on LinkedIn as well and on Jeff's YouTube. But I make sure I put those stuff in there as well.
And that's 20th to the 24th of March. So
yep, Monday to the Friday. every single day. And I've been working out what time to do the lives every day, and they are going to be around the same time as what we've done. So it's going to be about 2 o'clock, because I know I've got a mix of different countries come in already to the 5 days. So I've been trying to make sure I can work with most of you at the same time. We've had a couple of questions.
Yeah.
One of them says, again, this is about pricing and people coming in and taking on the work. So somebody's charging 800 to 1,000 per day for interiors and architectural shoots, but there's a new kid on the block that's charging 500, and he's picking up loads of local clients. I see his name everywhere. So by lowering his price, he's cleaning up. I've been tempted to match his price. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't charge on a day rate. I would charge on a package, a solution-based package. So you would say how many images are included in that particular package. And remember, it's not necessarily down to price. So you've got to think about what he's offering. So what do you get within that package for 500? If you can add extra value to your packages as well. So it's not always about the imagery. You can add additional things to it. Like, a lot of my commercial clients, commercial photographers include keywording of all their images. So not only will your images be, great attention grabbing images, they can also get found a lot easier on social media, on Google. So think about creating packages, and there will be people who will buy on price alone. But do you think, let's think architecturally, do you think like the Hilton just buys on price? Because the Hilton has their brand to protect. They're buying on the quality and the service and everything that goes into it. So are you targeting the right sort of people? Are you targeting the right sort of clients? Because there will be people who don't buy on price, and there will be people who do buy on price. And potentially the people who are going over to a cheaper offering are not buying for the quality and for the service, they're buying purely on price. So maybe have a look at your who your ideal client type is, and are you projecting the right client to the right client, and does your brand actually reflect what you want to project as well? And then Jason has said, with regards to inflation, now I believe that as a photographer, you should be increasing your prices every year. And the rate of inflation, I don't watch the news, but I've heard like people say rate of inflation is 5, 6, 7% in the UK. It's not. It must be somewhere in the region from 15 to 20%, because you can go into a supermarket and something that was 99 pence is now £1.50 or £1.20. You see it in the cost of your everyday food bills. These are all going up. Energy prices are going up. So we need to be passing that on. If we don't put our prices up, if we don't adapt, we actually start making less profit. We become less profitable. Yeah.
Sorry. I was going to say, it becomes easier when you're aiming for the higher end. Because obviously if you decide you're going to go in the the bottom, the lower end, the numbers game, it's going to be harder to increase your prices as easily. Whereas in the higher end, an extra £50, I've done it with my coaching clients, and this is even before the inflation went up. We adjusted her prices by £50 per product. Nobody said a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We increased her session fee by 100. No one said a thing. But it's because she was already playing in a level where 100 quid actually wasn't much different.
Yeah.
Because she was in that higher end. So that does help, I think, with who you aim to.
And with the wedding business, we used to put our prices up the 31st of January and the 1st of September every year without fail. And that would be between 5 and 10%. So effectively, our prices would change between 10 and 20% every year. But with the weddings, September, people were booking for the following year or sometimes 2 years in advance. So don't be afraid to put your prices up. You definitely need to do that because everything else is going up. So the running cost of your business is going to go up. It's going to increase. Even just switching on the lights in your studio, putting on the heating, putting fuel in your car. Even if you're not purchasing products, even if you're just supplying digital images, it's still costing you more to do your week shopping and to when you get home to put on the heating at home. So you need to be taking in that money. Otherwise, your standard of living is going to start dropping.
And Clive, from my perspective, with yours, I would use what he's doing, this new kid on the block, as a way to inspire, motivate yourself to be consistent with your marketing, your branding, your social media, and as a way to push yourself forward, because I wouldn't lower my prices. I'd just be working at making sure I was seen more than the new person in a way that showed clients why they should choose me.
Mm.
So use that as a challenge, take it as a positive challenge. That's what I've done previously when I've had people who have taken up the same thing I've done and have done it for quite a bit cheaper than me. I've used it as a challenge to show my clients why they should book me instead of the other people. And it's not degrading anybody. I'm just giving, showing them what I do and how I do it, and being in front of the camera and connecting with more people so that you have the connection with the person. Because once you've got the connection with the person, often money doesn't become as much of an issue. And if it is an issue and you've got a connection with the person will probably tell you if it is a big issue.
Yeah. Funny enough, one of my commercial clients, he's from the UK, Kevin, and he said, quite a few of his customers say, Kevin, you're an asset to the business. If you were charging twice what you're charging now, we'd still use you, because they're his regular customers. He's a commercial photographer. He deals with people aren't buying on price. They understand his value. They understand that he understands their business and what they're trying to communicate. They're not having to try and find a new photographer every time and explain the whole thing. And he becomes an asset to their business because the images he produces bring them revenue. It gets more visitors to the website. It creates more interaction on their social media. It helps sell their products. So talking about, the Mac picks companies, yes, there's cheap versions of everything. There is cheap versions of everything in the world, but they will suffice certain businesses and certain people, but they won't suffice other ones. And like I say, the more premium businesses are not buying on quality. And like Michelle just said there, people also do business with people they like. So, my mentoring isn't budget mentoring, but people come to me because they think I'm authentic, they trust me, they believe in what I do. They say, Jeff's great to work with. So I'm part of that brand as well. They might not, you wouldn't go and mentor with somebody if you didn't like the person. Would you buy if somebody you didn't like? I mean, certain things you do have, you have no choice in, which might be your telephone line or your council tax or something like that. You've got to pay it. You don't have a choice, right? But given the option, people buy from people they like and people who they want to do business with. So that is really a big essential core of your brand.
Something I've actually just purchased a new skincare routine. But the reason I'm bringing it up is actually I purchased it from somebody online, which is rare for me. But the reason I've purchased it is because they've pushed the benefits to me. So they have pushed that it's cruelty free. They have refillable things. For one of my values is the amount of plastic we use. And they've got those refills. So they give you a glass bottle and then it's a refill. And there's loads of other things. But also they share their story. And they're two people, a couple who have worked together to create this brand of products. They looked at what was in the skincare stuff that we can buy every day. And I can even tell you all this. This is just from literally reading one page of their marketing. They could see how that they even put the number. It was something like 29 products within most skincare products that you can't even pronounce. And so they went and created something that was completely natural, vegan free, like vegan, all this stuff. I'm not vegan, but I like the idea that my products are cruelty free and they have less plastic. Literally, I'm telling you all the stuff I literally saw on a one-page marketing bit. And instantly, instead of going to Boots and looking at all these brands that, yes, have spent money, Nivea and all the rest of it, they hadn't captured my attention in the way this small company had. And the small company instantly said to me, this is what we're providing. This is why it's a good thing. And it's the same with photography. It's just something that I've purchased today. And I actually went to Boots this morning and thought, maybe I'll just get something from the shelf. I just looked at these whole shelves of things and was like, nah, I'm going to go back.
Yeah.
I understand what they're doing. They've told me why they're doing it. There's a picture of them. There's actually pictures of them going to the factory on this page and doing all these bits. There's parts of their life. So I'm seeing who they are. And instantly, I want to buy from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's no different in the photography industry.
Mm-hmm. Get your personality across, and also, you know, don't make yourself a commodity. Don't be, if you can offer something different that your competitors aren't offering, which might be keyword, and you might be a commercial photographer, and you might give your clients advice on how to post to LinkedIn. You know, there's plenty of photography mentors out, but there's not many photography mentors out there who have as big a following on LinkedIn as me. And, you know, I'm a LinkedIn expert, so that becomes my thing. But I'm not going to say that I'm an expert on Instagram. I'll leave that to a few of my other photography mentors who are experts in Instagram, and that becomes their little niche and their little thing of expertise. And you know, that skin product was an amazing example. I was just looking in my drawer here for some chocolate, because I've got really nice bars of chocolate from Northumberland, which are like, you know, £5-6 a bar of chocolate, but you can buy that Cadbury's one for £1. But when people join my program as part of their package, they get some really nice chocolates and fudge and my own brand of coffee, and they get that in a welcome pack, because it makes people feel good. And I like to offer stuff like that, you know, so people aren't buying just on price alone, because otherwise those fancy chocolate bars wouldn't be around. So I hope you found this useful, guys. We've had a great conversation today. Unfortunately, that's the last one of our current webinars together, but I think we might be able to twist Michelle's arm to come back in the late spring, early summer, to do another series of 4 webinars, because we've had some brilliant interaction. We've met some great people. We've had some great messages as well come through on LinkedIn and through Facebook. So if you're not connected with Michelle or me, drop us a connection request. And remember, we're always here to help. It doesn't take anything for us to do a little voice clip and message back. And I would definitely recommend getting yourself along to Michelle's 5-day challenge. You can rewatch this again from the beginning. Just go to my hashtag, which is creating successful photographers, and if you follow that, then you can rewatch again. So thanks again, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure, and have a brilliant week. Thanks again, guys.
Bye.